episode 58 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki, and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet, and making all the things here in Northwest London. You can find me on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you would like to join the group, if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab on Ravelry, you will find our group right there. There will be a chatter thread for this episode, and I will link to that and everything else I mention just in the box below, as well as juicier show notes which you will find on my blog. As always, a massive thank you. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for giving the podcast a shot. I really do appreciate it. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you. Thank you so much for coming back every episode. I massively appreciate that. Today's tea is another one from my Bird and Blend box that they sent me. They were very, very kind to send me this. This is the carrot cake one. I think I mentioned this last week as one that my mum had her eye on. And I was quite willing to share because when I read the description, I thought, I don't know if I'm going to like that. So I will read the ingredients to you now. And it's rhubarb tea with cinnamon, caramelised hazelnut, carrot flakes, vanilla pieces, nutmeg, mallow flavours. I don't always like rhubarb. I think it's also known as red bush. I have had some that I've really enjoyed. I've had some that I've not enjoyed so much. And I'm not a big fan of very sweet teas. I like my tea without sugar. I really like just a dark, ever so slightly bitter tea. So I wasn't sure if I was going to like this. So when I brewed it up, I left the teapot downstairs for my mum to finish because I thought, Mum will love it. She's had her eye on it. And of course now I'm sitting here and it's absolutely delicious, and I really wish I hadn't been so generous with my teapot. It is sweet, but it's kind of spicy. It's got the nutmeg and the cinnamon, just gives it that, I want to say Christmassy, and I think it's because I associate nutmeg and cinnamon with Christmas and mulled wine, and it's got a kind of mulled wine undercurrent, which I really, really like, and it's very, very drinkable. As I can tell, because I'm already halfway through the mug, and as I said, I left my teapot downstairs, which I'm ever so slightly regretting that generosity now. Genuinely didn't think this was going to be one of my favourites, but this really, really is. If you haven't tried Bird and Blend before, they have given me a discount code for new customers. So when you make your first order, you can use the code that I'm going to put on the screen now and get a little bit of money off. And I'll put all the details down below as well. Now, before I dive into Whipped Up, I just want to say a massive thank you from me and also from my nan. I think that was probably one of my most popular episodes ever, and it had absolutely nothing to do with me and everything to do with her. And she wanted to say a big thank you for all of your kind thoughts and your good luck messages for her operation. She's absolutely fine. She was out the same day. She's quite bruised and her arm is a little bit sore, but she has started knitting her first pair of socks. So she is pretty much back to herself at this point. She will be back on the podcast. I know a lot of you were hoping that she would be. I'm going to try and get her on maybe every other episode or so. But thank you. You were all so lovely and we both really, really appreciated it. So thank you. 2019 is the year of the faux, because I just all faux all the time over here at the moment. For those of you who have been watching from episode 1 or, you know, the early days, you will know that finishing, not in my nature, and yet, what have I been on this year? I don't know. I don't want to think about it too much. I don't want to look it in the eye. I just want to keep going because I have another faux for you. Ta-da! I am calling these my strawberry sister socks because they are knit out of the strawberry sherbet colourway from Kate Celine, which I bought as a sock set with this blue and this red for my 30th birthday a couple of years ago now. And I call them my sister socks because they're not twins, as you can see. The sock set came with a really beautiful skein of this pink sherbet, strawberry sherbet I think is the colourway, and a little skein of blue and a little skein of red. And I decided to do kind of fraternal socks rather than twins. So I just alternated the heel coat and tuff. Heel coat and tuff? heel, toe and cuff. So there you go. I decided I would swap those up a little bit. I am feeling incredibly virtuous about these. I knit them a hell of a lot more quickly than the last pair, which you were seeing week in, week out for what felt like months on end. It was months on end. But these knit up really quickly. I think I finished them in about 2 weeks, and they are possibly the best fit of any socks that I've knit so far, and they are absolutely delicious. I think they are beautiful. I wove in the ends as soon as I finished each sock, so I felt very virtuous about that, because as I mentioned on either the last episode or the one before, I haven't been so good about the whole end weaving and blocking thing. I left a little pile stacking up, so I thought, not going to happen this time. I'm actually going to crack on and get them done. And I blocked them this weekend. I left them a little while to block them. I didn't get round to that very quickly. But there they are. They're pretty much dry now, so they will be going into my sock drawer later on. And I just think they're beautiful. I absolutely love them. I can say I was, as I pushed them into the water, I had a moment of panic, because this is obviously quite a bright red, and it's quite a strong blue, and there's lots of colours in here. It's quite a pale pink, and I had this sudden horror that, oh my god, what if the red runs and I've just ruined this gorgeous pair of socks. But as you can see, no running whatsoever. The blue didn't run, the red didn't run, there's no running in the little pops of colour in the sock, so I can really vouch for these. Didn't need any kind of pre-washing before using. Obviously your mileage may vary depending on like whether you have hard or soft water where you are, but I have to be honest, I had a moment of panic because I didn't pre-wash them. I didn't check whether they would bleed, and I thought, oh no, this is when that comes back to bite me. And it didn't, and I'm very, very happy with them. And just look how gorgeous they are, I'm so happy. Now, unfortunately, this is the only faux this week. I feel like I should have a sad noise that I can insert, like whenever I say things like that, I can have a noise that's like, oh, in the background. Because that's how I feel, that is the internal sound whenever I say things like that. Because yes, I am still working on my pavement, I am plugging away, and you will notice that I haven't mentioned having any more socks on the needles. And the reason for that is because I am addicted to socks. And if I have socks on the needles, this will never get finished. So, I am getting there though. Slowly but surely, I am getting there. This is the Pavement by Vera Valimaki, and I am knitting it out of Industrial Kingfisher, which is by Stranded Dye Works, on her merino nylon base. I nearly said merino cashmere nylon. It's definitely not. It's the sock base merino nylon. And this is my sleeve. I am about 5 centimetres away from having the stockinette portion of this sleeve finished, and then I will be doing a garter stitch cuff to match the bottom and the neckline. I was really, really hoping to get this done this week, and unfortunately it's been a bit of a week and I haven't had as much time to sit and just knit mindlessly. Haven't had any time at all really. So this is as much as I've got done. I'm quite happy with it. I'm getting there slowly, slowly, slowly but surely. And look, it looks like a sleeve now. It looked like a little kind of nubbin before, but now it actually looks like a sleeve. So I promise next episode we will have a completed sleeve and I'll be on the next one. I'm really, really looking forward to having this finished. I'm excited to try it on. As I've said, the weather is not at its best at the moment, so if I work really hard, it might actually still be cool enough to wear it on the podcast when it's finished, so wish me luck. But yeah, that is the main reason I haven't cast on another pair of socks, and I haven't had anything to work on at work. I was planning to take my pavement in and just work on the sleeve on my lunch break, as I've been doing with socks, but unfortunately getting it to and from work, it's in quite a large project bag. I don't have a massive handbag that I take to work, and lugging it to and from work was just a bit of a logistical nightmare when you're trying to fit in getting to the gym, etc., and meeting people. So I left it at home, and that is why we haven't had as much work on it. Now I have to say that not having something to knit on at lunchtime has been tricky. It's left me with a lot of thought knitting. I have been working quite a lot the past couple of weeks, so it's not like I've just been sat there doing nothing. I have actually ended up just going back to work after I've eaten. So I haven't had loads of knitting time at work. But you know when you've done a little bit too much work and your brain's like, no, I need to think about something, not this, I need to think about something else, my brain has been going, of course, to knitting. And it hasn't been thinking about what's the next pair of socks I should cast on, because, you know, I've already got that lined up. You know, I've got a massive stack of sock yarn. I will be talking about that later on, that I am super ready to cast on, so that's not even a consideration. But what do I pick up when I'm done with my pavement? Some of you may remember that I cast on another jumper this time last year, over a year ago, around March last year I think, and I didn't get very far with it. But this is the Kerry Town by Annie Lupton, and this is as far as I got with it, and I knit it out of Willow and Lark Ramble in the Oxblood colourway. And the reason I haven't got very far with this is because it's quite an intense cable chart. So it's very much something that I couldn't really take to work. I'd have to work on it at home with the chart spread out in front of me. But then it occurred to me, the back of this jumper is not cabled. The back of this jumper, as far as I'm aware, just has these kind of garter stripes, which I don't know if you can see because it's quite a dark yarn, but it's a stockinette front with garter stripes. And as far as I'm aware, that, see, this is how long ago that I cast this on. I've taken the needles out. I should probably put something on the end of that really before it goes sliding off. But yes, the back is not cabled. The back is just garter stripes. So that's pretty mindless knitting, and it's going to have to get knit eventually. So I was thinking, when I finish my pavement, I might make my at-work knitting the back of my Kerry Town, she says, pulling all the stitches off one end. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking. I couldn't stop thinking about this, about how much I wanted it, how beautiful the cables are, how gorgeous this yarn is. Like, I have no gorgeous red jumper like this at all. I think this would look fantastic at Christmas and through winter. It would be great for any fibre festivals I go to at the beginning of next year. So I really want to get this finished. So the fact that my brain has already turned itself towards the next jumper project just goes to show how close I am to finishing the pavement and how much I actually really want to work on garments at the moment. I've been watching some videos about how to finish your garments when they're in pieces. That's been really interesting. So I'm genuinely really keen to get back to this one, really keen. So yeah, that will be making an appearance again very soon. The other thing that I have been working on, as I said, it's been a bit of a long old week, so I have been reaching for my crochet blanket quite a lot. There's not a great deal of progress to show you, but as you can see, my ball, my magic ball, is significantly smaller. I think this was mostly yellow when I showed it last time, and I really love the colours that are showing at the moment. I love this like dark galaxy blue here with the lighter blue and the pops of neon pink and teal. I think that colour combination is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm really enjoying having that kind of sat on the box at the end of my bed because I think it's beautiful. And here is the progress. So this yellow chunk here is where I was before, and it doesn't look like much because that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows. But 7 rows when it's double bed width is quite a lot. So there you go, it starts here and goes all the way, all the way, all the way. So there we go. So it's quite a lot, and I was working on that just kind of mindlessly, which was absolutely needed. I really love this blanket. I'm kind of glad that it's not super hot, because I remember at one point it did get very hot last year and I just couldn't even look at this because having it anywhere near me and trying to work on it while blazing sunshine just didn't work. So I'm hoping to get through all of my leftover advent yarns before it gets too hot to work on it. Speaking of advent yarns, that is something else that I have been working on over the past couple of days. I think I've mentioned before on the podcast, I'm almost certain I have, that I have for 2 years now done an advent swap with my friends. The reason that I started doing this advent swap with my friends is because, to be perfectly frank with you, an indie dyed advent calendar is just a little bit out of my price range. Having said that, I understand the level of work, the level of planning, and just it's very, very hard work to create these indie dyed advent calendars. So I absolutely and completely understand their price point. It's just beyond my means at the moment. But I still wanted a yarn advent calendar, and that's how my friends and I came up with the idea of doing an advent swap. And the first 2 years I did it, I loved doing it, but I found it very, very time consuming because I left it until sort of like November time to sit and find all the yarn and wind them and weigh them and label them and wrap them. And it can take a little while. So this year I decided that I was going to get in early and start now. So I have this little tin, and this is where I put my leftover yarn. So when I finish a sock project or any project really that uses fingering weight yarn, my leftovers go in here. And then once a week or so, as and when I have time really, I sit down and I wind them into balls, and I put one of these little labels on them. So there you go, I've already wound a little ball of the Rock and String Creations, and I make a little label for it so that it's already done. And then as soon as I get some wrapping paper, I will wrap them up and I will start packaging them up ready to go out to my friends in kind of November time. Which probably sounds bonkers because it is May and we haven't even had a proper summer yet, and I'm already talking about creating my advent yarns. But if this is something you were inspired to do, I really would recommend starting now because it makes your life so much easier. Because honestly, it took me a good few hours to pull together those advent calendars. And at a time of year when there's a lot of things to do, that's a big chunk of time. So I'd really recommend getting on it now, and then it's all ready to go at the end of the year with no stress. One last thing before we move on to Herbie spoilers, because yes, there is some Herbie spoilers this week. My beautiful friend Katie of Inside Number 23 sent me a little parcel this week, and it was a thank you for the baby blanket that I made her, and she'd sent a couple of skeins of sock yarn for my nan to inspire her with her sock knitting, which she is very, very happy about. I have left those for her to show off next time she is on the podcast. But Katie sent me a beautiful pair of hand knit socks, which didn't quite fit her, but fit me perfectly, and I am currently wearing them and they are very comfortable. Thank you, Katie. And she also sent me this. This is Perfect Sock Self-Striping from Mustache Yarns. And I have been eyeballing mustache yarns for a while, and I just never got around to buying any. And look at this. This is the colourway Daily Eggs, and there's a little picture on here of a little circle of eggs going from kind of white to blue to the kind of traditional beige egg colour, I guess. Beige? Egg colour. And I think this is absolutely beautiful. Now, I'm going to bring this back to the point here, but bear with me for a moment. I am super behind on podcasts. I have been having a massive audio podcast catch-up binge with my runs and on my commute, and I'm pretty much all caught up with my audio podcasts, but I'm very behind on my video podcasts. So I've only just watched Amy of Stranded Dye Works and the Stranded Podcast. I've only just watched her video of her 25 days of Christmas socks. I'm now into January. So I am catching up, Amy, I promise. But I was really inspired by it, and now that I have this sock session that I have, I kind of feel like I want to do the 25 days of Christmas socks. I want to do the box of Christmas socks. I want to get the cute box and paper chase, and I want to fill it up. I already have 3 West Yorkshire spinners. Got it first time, did you see that? I already have 3 skeins of their Christmas colourways. I have the Candy Cane, the Holly Berry, and last year's Fairy Lights. So they're ready to go. And I look at this, and I think this could pass as kind of, not as necessarily a Christmas yarn, but definitely kind of a wintry yarn, because it's got these beautiful blues in it and greys that just remind me of really beautiful frosty winter days, kind of like Frozen. So I'm going to knit this up, and I'm going to see if it is as wintry and frosty knit up as it looks in the skein. And this might make its way into my 25 days of Christmas box of socks. There's got to be a catchier title for that, but you know what I mean. So yes, I am shamelessly copying Amy. I did text her and say, do you mind if I do that? Is that weird? It's just they're so pretty and I want some. Also, what I love about this is that it's 2 skeins twisted together so you can get them perfectly matching, which makes my kind of pinickety little heart very happy. But this I will knit up and we will see if it will make it into my wintry box of socks. So thank you, Katie, for a beautiful new skein of yarn, and thank you, Amy, for continuing the sock session and for inspiring me to do something as bonkers as 25 days of Christmas socks. I guarantee I will not have them done in 2 years the way Amy did. It will probably take me about 20. But you know, if you've been watching any number of these podcasts, you will know that I'm pretty slow, and I also don't have a sock machine, so there's that. But now let's move on to Here Be Spoilers. It is a bit of a different Here Be Spoilers this week. I will not be talking about a film or a podcast, but I will be talking about my latest trip to Harry Potter Studios. And the reason I'm putting this in Here Be Spoilers is because I went to see the new Gringotts extension, and there may be those of you who want to go and see that but don't want to know anything about it before you go. I'm going to be talking about it in potentially a lot of detail. We'll see how carried away I get. So if you don't want to hear anything about the new Gringotts extension or anything about the studio tour and you just want to be surprised when you go, please do skip ahead to Knit and Natter. I will put something on the screen here to let you know when it's safe to skip to. So there we go. There's your spoiler warning. It's called Here Be Spoilers. So if you hear anything you don't want to hear, don't say I didn't warn you. I am very lucky that I have a friend who works at the Harry Potter Studios, and he got me a ticket for their nearest and dearest evening. I believe they have this every 6 months or so, and it just means you can go there a little bit later and it's a lot quieter. And it is a lot quieter than when I've been during kind of normal opening hours. And obviously I have the bonus then of going around with somebody who knows the place inside out. He's full of trivia, he's full of like fun little facts that I wouldn't know otherwise. So I'm incredibly lucky, and I count my lucky stars that we became friends and he got this job. So since I last went, which I think was 2017, I don't think I went last year, they have completely redesigned the entrance. Previously you'd go in and there would be pictures all around of various characters from the series. The first time I went was in 2016, and I remember being very emotional because that was the very first time I went. It was not long after Alan Rickman had died, who I was very fond of. I'm not so fond of Snape, but I was very fond of Alan Rickman, so I did get, you know, I was emotional anyway. I was going to Harry Potter Studios, but that made me just a little bit more but this new foyer is just incredible. The Ukrainian Iron Belly dragon from the Gringotts breakout in the last film is there. It is there. It's hanging from the ceiling. It is absolutely incredible. And this thing has been sculpted out of clay. It is life-size. It's kind of like coming down on you like it's going to attack, and it is just stunning. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I couldn't believe the amount of change they'd made in this foyer. I am here for it. It's amazing. It is a million times better than kind of the plain thing they had before. I whizzed through most of it fairly quickly because, as I say, I've been there a few times, and I was there for the Gringotts extension. And let me tell you, when I walked into Gringotts, it took my breath away. They have absolutely recreated it. You are there, you are in the bank, you've got the little stands with all of the goblins ready to help you. There's the guy at the end, the main goblin. The floor, the marble pillars, the chandeliers. It was absolutely amazing. It was just the most incredible set that I've ever walked onto. There are fantastic pieces throughout the studios, but this you walk into and you are in Gringotts. It was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. And I thought that was it. I was like, this is cool. I love this. This is awesome. And then I walked into the next soundstage, which was Gringotts Destroyed. I couldn't believe it. So they showed how they actually planned the destruction. So I'm sure this won't come as a surprise to anybody that they didn't just knock over some pillars and go, there we go. They actually figured out the best way visually that this destruction was going to look, and they redid it. They set it up again in the studios, and it is amazing because they have like smoke piping in, so you got like the dust from like where everything's broken and falling down. And then my friend didn't tell me this, he just was like, can you hear that? Do you hear that? And you hear this like kind of thumping. And I was like, oh my God, like they've made it sound like the dragon's coming up. That's really cool. And then the dragon came up. I was not expecting it. He didn't warn me. He just sat there like looking at me like, just waiting for you to realize what's going to happen. And they must have put up, I didn't want to think about it too much, but they must have put up some kind of screen. And then like through the smoke, you see the dragon like come out through the smoke, and then it spots you and just like goes mental and that's for fire, and it's just amazing. And they actually, I stayed there for a little while, and they actually have 2 or 3 different variations of the dragon coming up, so it's not the same thing over and over again, which was an attention to detail I thought was really, really nice. And you know, you've got the chandelier hanging down broken, and it was amazing. And obviously some of the people who were there had brought children, and you've got these little kids who are like, oh yeah, like broken Gringotts, oh my God, dragon! Absolutely fantastic. So this is why I said there'd be spoilers, because I'm really, really glad that I went in not knowing that I was going to see destroyed Gringotts, because when I walked in I was like, oh, what? This is amazing. And I'm also really glad that I didn't know that the dragon was going to come up. We timed it really well, so I thought I was just looking at a destroyed set. I didn't know that that was going to happen, and it made my day. I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. And then of course you get to Hogwarts at the end, and that beautiful model of Hogwarts, every time I see it, I've seen it 3 or 4 times now, I get the goosebumps. The hairs go up on the back of my neck and I get kind of choked. And to many people, I'm a 32-year-old woman, that will sound bonkers, but for me, I grew up on this series, and when I was bullied at school, I read this book and I felt safe. You know, it was my home, it was my comfort, and it's been that for me whenever anything bad has happened in my life, whenever I've lost something or I've moved, and any other time in my life when I felt unsettled, I've been able to turn to these books because I know them. I know the characters, they're so familiar to me. And what J.K. Rowling said at the premiere of the last film, where she said Hogwarts will always be there to welcome you home, that feels very true to me. And I think all of us have something, usually from our childhood, that we're able to turn to in times of trouble or grief or sadness or unsettled times, that we can find comfort from. And for me, that's Harry Potter, and I'm incredibly lucky that it was something that took the world by storm in this way, because it means I have access to a lot more kind of things in this world. So I hope that explains why I, as a fully grown woman, am still obsessed with what is technically a children's book, but there you go. I do have some tips. If you haven't been to the studios before, I would recommend not getting the butterbeer. There are people who love it, so if you want to try it, please go ahead. But to me, it's just a bit of ice cream on top of some iron brew, and it's pretty gross. I would recommend getting the butterbeer ice cream. That is delicious. It is, it's so good, and it tastes like butterbeer in my opinion. They've also got a new cafe which you can go to at the end of the tour called the Chocolate Frog Cafe, and I recommend getting the hot chocolate from there. It is spendy and you get a very small mug of it, but I cheerfully could have shared that small mug. It was incredibly sweet, but it was delicious. And the ice cream and the Chocolate Frog hot chocolate, to me, taste more like the butterbeer that I imagine than the weird, like, fizzy, it was just, I don't like butterbeer, I'm sorry. What I imagine to be butterbeer, they made into ice cream and hot chocolate. I did make a couple of cheeky purchases while I was there. As I said, my friend works there, so he gets a staff discount, and I decided to take advantage. I got a little baby grow, Hogwarts baby grow for my friend. I don't have it to hand, but then I treated myself, because I do some pen paling, to a wax seal set. I've been looking at this for a while, and I just thought, why not? So I went ahead and I got myself a Hufflepuff seal for when I send letters. I have been, as I've said, to the studio several times. I have been to the shop on platform 9 3/4 at King's Cross, and I always kind of go with the feeling of, I'm gonna get myself a chocolate frog, and I never do. Because let's talk about pricing. I understand that this is a business and people have to make money, but I also believe that you should price your things at a reasonable rate, because let's face it, most of the people going to this studio are parents with young children, and those young children are going to want souvenirs. And I always think I'm going to get a chocolate frog, and then I go in and I see the price and I think, absolutely hell no, just no. The chocolate frogs are £8.95. So they're pretty much £9. You don't get much change from a £10 note for a chocolate frog, which, may I remind you, is a chocolate frog in a box with a card. I don't think that's worth nearly £10, me personally, and I say that as a fangirl. It ain't worth it. I happened to notice when I was there that they're now doing, in the Honeyduke section of the shop, they are doing a ceramic chocolate frog box. And I thought, do you know what? I take all my jewellery off at the end of the night and I put it on my bedside table. I could get one of those, and then I'd get the chocolate frog and I'd be able to put my jewellery in it. That seems to me reasonable. It was £20. And I said this to my friend, and this little boy behind me went, you know there's no chocolate frog in that, right? And I turned around like, excuse, what did you say? Say what? No, there's no chocolate frog in there. There's no card in there either. And I looked and I double checked. That kid was right. No chocolate frog, no card, just the box. It's a ceramic box, but it's £20. And if I wanted to get the chocolate frog as well, that's another nearly £10. We're looking at barely any change from £30 for me to get a chocolate frog in a little box. It is madness. This little kid's mum said that they had been to the King's Cross shop earlier in the day. I think it was the King's Cross shop. She said they'd been to a shop where they'd seen a chocolate frog for £5. And she said, no, we're going to the studios later. We'll get them there. Thinking they would be the same or cheaper. They're nearly double. Nearly double. And that to me is absolutely horrendous. As I said, I speak as a fangirl. I speak as somebody who, as I said, I bought myself a wax seal. I bought a baby grow. I bought myself a little Lego person to go on my desk at work. I got Harry Potter, by the way, with Hedwig. I am the kind of person who is willing to buy this merchandise. I am not willing to buy a £10 chocolate frog. You are joking. I'm sorry, no. Some of the other stuff, I can kind of justify the price because, hey, it's a £40 jumper and I wear it all the time. I wear my Hufflepuff sweatshirt a lot. I'm getting my money's worth eventually. But it really, really frustrates me because this is a fandom that children love, and it's already, like, you've got to pay for the ticket to get in. If you are a parent with 2 or 3 kids, it racks up, and I really, really feel like there should be things in that shop, like the chocolate frogs, because they're chocolate, that are more affordable. We really, really, like, come on. I just think, I mean, clearly you spent all the money that you made on chocolate frogs on that giant dragon at the beginning, which is great, but also, come on. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now let's move on to knit and natter. The reason that I didn't want to talk about my trip to the Harry Potter studios in knit and natter, apart from the fact that I was trying to be very spoiler friendly, is because I wanted to talk about a couple of other things. So I am very aware that what I share on the podcast and what I share on Instagram is usually very upbeat, very cheerful, very positive. And that is because, on the whole, that is how I live my life. I always try and look on the bright side. I am relentlessly optimistic. It's kind of my superpower. I always think, worst things happen at sea. This is, you know, this could always have been worse. Something will work out. I am always looking on the bright side. It probably drives people mad, but it gets me through the day. And for me, what I share on the podcast and what I share on Instagram is my highlights reel. And I think that we all know that social media, YouTube, Instagram, etc., it's our highlights reel. It's very, very rare that I'm going to share a picture of me exhausted and spotty and tell you what a hard day I've had, because ultimately I curate my Instagram so that I can scroll back and have a look at happy memories. That is what my Instagram is for me. All that to say, it sounds like I'm building up something really dark, doesn't it? But I'm not at all. I just wanted to share the fact that I have had not the most awesome last month or so. Nothing terrible has happened. It's just been a very, very busy weeks at work. If you do follow me on Instagram, I did share on there about our latest launch. We're a very small team. There's only 3 of us. And pulling off something of this scale has been a lot of work. As I mentioned, I've worked through most of my lunch breaks, I've worked late when necessary, I have worked weekends, and that is slowing down now, and I'm able to take that time back in lieu. And I will have a little long weekend coming up to do the walk for white, because walking nearly 27 miles is a break. But I just wanted to share that because life can get stressful. And then I had the added stress of further health issues. And the reason I'm sharing that is because I did share at the end of last year that I had had several months of various investigations, which culminated in me having an operation to have an ovarian cyst removed in October. I'm obviously fine. Since then, I have recovered perfectly well. I have run a half marathon. I'm obviously absolutely fine. And I encouraged you, whether you're a man or a woman, to understand your normal. So for me, I have been checking my cycle very closely. I know what is a normal cycle for me, and I know when something is abnormal. And I also encouraged you, when you noticed any abnormalities, to go to your doctor straight away. In my opinion, it is better to go when you notice the slightest little thing is off and get the tests or whatever you need and be told that it's nothing, than to wait for further symptoms. That's just personally what I think is the best thing to do. And I had my operation and everything was settling down, and I was, as I said, checking in with myself quite closely, understanding what is normal for my cycle. And I had some more symptoms crop up in late February, I think it was. Yes, it was before my birthday. And I didn't share that on the podcast because I wanted to wait until I knew what was happening. And I literally went to the doctor the next day. As soon as I noticed the symptom, I went to the doctor. I'm not going to go into details about what my symptoms were, because your mileage may vary and what is a symptom for me may not be for you. People vary wildly. And I can't remember how many scans I had now. I think I had 2 scans and a couple of other tests. I've had a treatment, all very, very minor, and everything has come back clear. There is absolutely nothing wrong with me. The issue was incredibly minor and nothing to worry about. And the reason I'm sharing that is because I want to be an advocate for knowing your body and getting help when you need it. I have been incredibly lucky that on the 2 occasions where I've noticed symptoms, I have gone and I've had various investigations, and it's all turned out to be fine. It's all turned out to be normal, or something that could be dealt with fairly routinely. For me, I just want to reiterate what I said at the end of last year when I talked about the issues that I'd had, which is understand your normal. Whether that be a women's health kind of thing, whether that be back pain, whether it be migraines, anything, understand your normal so that the moment that it's not normal, you can go and get it checked. And I'm an advocate for that just because peace of mind is worth so much more than potentially the worry of hearing something bad. Go and get the peace of mind. I try to keep the podcast as light and as positive as possible, but there are times when I feel that it is important to share things that are not so light. And I think that's important because we are all human. And if I sit here and I'm always smiley, happy, jazz hands, it's not conveying the truth of my life. I am an incredibly lucky, happy person, but work can be stressful. Creeping towards a mortgage is stressful. You know, training for a marathon is stressful. I'm currently wondering why on earth I've signed up to do this 27-mile hike next weekend. Nothing is perfect. Nothing you see on the internet is perfect. I am only human. We all have our struggles. We all have our moments. We all have our ups and our downs. So there we go. I hope that you are inspired to take closer notice of your body and what feels right and normal for you, and that if anything goes slightly off kilter, you will get yourself checked straight away, because I think it's really important to do that. And I hope that next time you open up Instagram and you see just a scroll of incredibly happy, buoyant posts and people apparently living their absolute best life, you will remember that out of shot, their house is potentially a mess. Out of shot, my room is currently a real mess. Or, you know, they didn't sleep so well the night before, or they're worrying about something. We're all human. We're all doing the best we can in this human experience. And again, that's like another TED Talk. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk this week, guys. Thanks. But there we go. That is the actual end of this episode. It's been quite opinionated, really, hasn't it? It's been quite ranty in places. I'll get my nan on next time, so it'll be a bit more cheerful. But in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely knitty couple of weeks, and I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care. Bye.